Welcome to the March podcast of Brainstorms. We've certainly had enough storms across our country in the winter, so now we're looking forward to spring. March also happens to be National Traumatic Brain Injury Month, and so this March, we're doing something just a little bit different. We're still here at our wonderful Sycamore Studios in Plain City, Ohio, and we're still here courtesy of the wonderful folks from the Fred and June McMurray Foundation who graciously support these podcasts. But this time, it's going to be run by our veteran, our board member, and somebody familiar to our audience, Matt Garrett. He's probably one of my favorite U.S. Navy corpsmen, although all corpsmen are just very, very special, and our country needs to know just how special they are. He got over a lot of the issues he had with serving our nation through creating plants, saving native plants. It's part of our agritherapy suicide prevention project at Resurrecting Lives Foundations, and he is one of our board members. So he's going to be taking my place as the main person in this particular podcast for March. He will also be moderated by Mr. Chuck Lynd, who is a co-founder of an agritherapy sustainable living nonprofit that we are collaborating with in Columbus. So I hope you all get ready for Planting for All Seasons by our Navy corpsman, our board member, our hero, Matt Garrett.
All right, welcome to the RLF podcast here. So I am Matt Garrett, and I am a two-time combat veteran and on the board for Resurrecting Lives Foundation. I'm happily joined here by Mr. Chuck Lynd, who long-term naturalist, a sustainable mastermind, I'll call you, and one of the smartest people I know, good friend, and was with Simply Living and still is. And Chuck, I'm going to let you take it away, so I don't want to just do disservice to you.
Yes, I'm a founding board member of an organization started in 1992, way back there, 30-plus years, called Simply Living. And from Simply Living's point of view, we're all about living sustainably, and Matt Garrett is kind of a hero because he's into the kinds of things that we recommend and we resource and have events around. So this is exciting. The reason I'm here is because I'm a friend of Paul Carlson, who's on the board of Resurrecting Lives and has been on the board of Simply Living. So we're buds, and the idea was that we need a back and forth. So I'm here to. I'm always enjoying hearing the amazing brainstorms and stories from Matt. He's legendary, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm a retired educator, but always, and my work with Simply Living has always been as a volunteer. And I've hosted many events, film events, and meetups, and those sorts of things to encourage the awareness in the larger community about living sustainably, whether it's food, it's energy, it's transportation, or just reconnecting with nature, which is an important theme of what Matt has been doing and what's important for veterans.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words there. I don't know if I'm worthy of that, but
you are.
I'll continue to be a ecological warrior here, and I find that you can make everything here interesting and relatable to everybody that we're going to talk to today. And we'll certainly have maybe a more of a veteran theme here, but I will say, even if you are the most anthrocentric person in the world and you don't give a flying solidago about anything that has to do with nature or ecological conservation, I guarantee you I can find you something that you are going to relate to and you are going to want. Whether it's better ecosystem, you're going to need clean air, you're going to need clean water, but also I bet you care about your pocketbook. Let's just say you still don't believe in any of that. We're going to save you time. We're going to save you money. And we could probably do it with, actually putting the tools down and just sitting back and doing whatever it is that you like to do. So I guarantee you we'll find that. If you don't by the end of the episode, let me know. But we're going to find a way, honestly, to find a way to make this relate to you, because everybody will benefit from this. And like I said, honestly, we'll save you time and money. There's other ways that we can do it. And, we'll jump right in. So how you doing?
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm excited, and I'm not nearly experienced as Matt is, but My wife and I do have a garden. We have a pollinator garden. We do a lot of the things that Matt's going to talk about. So I'm not as experienced, but I'm definitely committed to the lifestyle and the switch in mental energy to focusing on nature and what's out in your backyard. What can be the changes are dramatic if enough people get involved, and that's what Matt's about.
That's what I totally agree on that point. Yeah, and I always tell people just step outside, and whether it's trial and error, you just learn so much from being out there. So before we begin, I my little boy broke his on radius. I was telling you that, and I got to tell you, for the veterans, will probably have a kick. I had a little bit of a flashback. I need to ask Dr. Chris Ann what if this is muscle memory, or maybe it's a form of a flashback of maybe a PTSD or something where, we had him here at the local ER, but we had to take him downtown, and the nurse said, well, we got to, transport him down there. We have to do a field splint, and then, that way he just doesn't get transported and go down there. And I legitimately froze. I thought, oh my God, field splint. I thought, when is the last time I did a field splint? And I'm so, I've been out of the service for a while. The whole corpsman in me just started coming out. And I thought, it's probably back on the day when the ships were made of wood and the men were made of steel. And in case you didn't know, now it's the other way around. But I legitimately thought that. And then until they left, I was too embarrassed. I looked at my wife. I was like, field splint. I mean, do I have to do it? She goes, no, they're going to do it for you. And I thought, okay, well, good. Whew. Now we're good. So now I'm back to my safe space here. We're going to talk a little bit of horticultural therapy. And I'm going to give you a little roadmap. So we'll let you know where we're going, what we're going to do, what we're going to go over, keep you engaged here. I have it on good authority, by the way, that this is going to be the greatest RLF podcast in the history of all RLF podcasts. So here we go, right? So right now we're finishing up winter, and I wanted to go over some winter themes and really take a look, mental health wise. This is a tough time for veterans and just people in regards to whether it's the weather, whether it's, maybe the plants aren't around, they're not able to garden. And weather could just be, even if they're not a gardener, plant person, sundowners, we're only getting 10 hours of daylight or 9 hours in some places. So I understand that's an issue. And there's some things that we can do that have been proven medically and scientifically to help that. So we're going to try to combat that. And we obviously take mental health very seriously here at RLF, and we're going to push forward on that. So after we go over that, we're going to go over just touch on a little bit of cold stratification, some winter ideas, winter interest items, and describe some native plants for you. And then we're going to get into spring, because I know it might seem far away, but we're only a few weeks away from springing forward. And then we'll get into some spring ephemerals. And then I got some bold-faced words here, Chuck. We're going to see if some of these words you've heard of, but there's a method to my madness. And we're going to get into all this, and some spring ephemerals are a wonderful way to really get into the plant world. I've only recently, within the last decade, really started diving into them, and they are amazing. So, and then we'll get into 8 ways for, I think, Doug Ptolemy to improve what you're doing out there, to how you can help. And I want to touch a little bit on the Miyawaki method. We're going to get into that later. I'm not going to go full scale, and then we'll wrap it up. So how does that sound?
Sounds great, Matt.
All right. Well, without further ado, I just wanted to touch on some of these winter themes here. Great way. I know nothing's growing out here. So one thing I wanted to go over was, in winter, there's a new buzzword in the landscaping architecture. It's called winter interest. And all it really is just a fancy way of saying leaving texture and stalks up and not cutting back, whether you have it as your milkweed, your joe pie, your cone flowers, and leaving these items up and not cutting back, whatever it is. And I will say I started doing this about 5-6 years ago, and it is wonderful. I mean, I can look out there and you just see the different vertical and lines and colors. Even there's still little beiges and browns, and you can see out there, and that creates that winter interest. And there's just a way, and it also saves you money. You don't have to go out there and just tediously trim, and cut everything back. And then so it's just a mundane plain. And if it's like right now, you're just looking out there and it's just a blanket of snow and there's just nothing to look at. But now you're having that winter interest and that texture. You got things popping up over here and there, birds perching here. You still got animal, wildlife. And it has been proven, and we can share these studies too, that hearing the birds, interacting with those bird songs is essential for our mental health. And so what do we want to drive that home? And especially for veterans, because I can realize, a 2-time combat veteran, I can tell you birds were probably one of my big gateways of getting into this. It started with feeding birds. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So don't be intimidated at all. I had no idea. And then it just evolved and it said, well, what else can I do to help? Right. And so you guys feed birds, you said?
We do. And I've been definitely excited about an app called Merlin, which you may know. But if I've taken my dog a walk in the local park, we'll go through the woods and you hear the birds. You just turn this Merlin app on and it records the sound from the bird, shows you the picture of the bird, tells you more about it. So I know more about the northern cardinal, which is everywhere in Ohio. It's a state bird.
Yeah.
And many more birds. It's really fascinating.
Yep. So also the great backyard bird count is coming up, the GBBC. What Merlin puts that on, and I would say that's a great way over 4 days to count birds. That is a citizen scientific-led research, which is another kind of a newer term, where citizens participate in this official science project and report how many bird sightings to be. So I just want to encourage veterans. That is one way that we can really help our mental health on those items. So also, if you're planting native plants, and I also want to be fiscally conscious, maybe not everybody has the budget or the room to go out and plant a bunch of transplants or plant a bunch of, go out and purchase these plants. If you are looking to plant native plants by seed, that's great. Sometimes a lot of free, your municipality will give away, free native seeds, or you can find a place that's doing that. They do need cold stratification. So what that means is they need to know that, hey, this is cold right now. And this to me is fascinating. We're talking about seeds here. We're not talking about human brains and species. They will quite literally, if you throw them down in the spring or summer, they're not going to bloom. And they may take root, but it'll be the following winter and spring. They need to go through that cycle to know, oh, okay, this is cold. This means it's winter. Don't burst out of my shell just yet. And then they will go out. So I think that's just fascinating, the evolution of how this is all work. I mean, this is just mind-blowing. There's simple stuff like that, but there's other stuff we're going to get into that I think is going to be even better. So, were you familiar with the cold stratification?
No, I was not, but I'm learning too.
All right. Well, that's what we're all here to do. So I want to describe native plants too. Native plants, in very short, is plants that existed in your region before the Europeans got here.
Right.
So, and just because it's native to your country it doesn't mean it's necessarily native. So the Rocky Mountain blue spruce is not native east of the Mississippi. That's why it's not really working out so well right now. So that if it existed there before Europeans came in, that's a native plant, and that is part of your area. So one thing I did want to touch on, and I said it would save you time and money, is a story that I was out playing with the kids this past early November. And I saw a guy in the neighborhood. I'm out there. It's a nice day, early November. But that first kind of week in November, everything starts to transition before you get into Thanksgiving, and then everything's done. And had a neighbor who was out there bagging leaves and bagging all these stalks and a little bit of foreshadowing. I guess my English teachers would be proud of me. I did learn something. Would be the best word, as his grandson, who lives out of state, doesn't get to visit him, pulls into the driveway, or tries to, and can't maneuver around these 6 or 7 brown bags that are in the driveway blocking it. And I thought, well, that's a sign right there. And so I said hi, and I know their families well, and then all of a sudden he goes back out, and I thought, why isn't he joining us? Then he goes out, keeps raking up the leaves, cutting stalks, and I thought, oh my goodness, so that's just the stuff that I think is completely bonkers. So I watched this for a little bit. I'm out there playing with my kids. And I see him take off and leave. So wear and tear in the car, fills up the car with gas, comes back. Turns out he went to the box store to get more brown bags because he had ran out. He has beautiful coneflowers. Now, at this point, they had just lost the petals. Now all the cone heads, or the coneflower heads, are going to seed.
Right.
Goldfinches love this. So do the bluebirds. And bluebirds, by the way, don't have a beak that's strong enough to break a shell. So if you're out there trying to feed and you want those bluebirds, they can do shellless seed only. They can't, so if you have a sunflower black oil, so they can't break that shell. But this is important because if you know what to get, everything has a relationship, and that would have been perfect for him. But what he does is he went down and just took on these trimmers all the way down. And this took hours. So this actually was a Saturday, Sunday event. And I'm thinking to myself, it probably could have saved you a couple $100 at least on all the tools, the brown bags, the trips, all the wear and tear, the gas you put in your car, all the time that you spent, and not to mention you're not spending any time with your family and not done any of it. And he's cutting away these stalks on these coneflowers that the goldfinches would love, this is what, is crazy, is the same goldfinches he's trying to help with a bird feeder in his backyard.
Yeah.
Which, that's free seed. That is free seed. So right there you have free bird food. And then so I see that type of stuff and I think to myself, why are we doing this? And I just, for anybody listening, that's how I started really kind of diving into this. I would see a lot of these items and I just started questioning. I just kind of question everything. Even if it's something that I have done, I just, go to the library, go to Google, it's the Google machine as I call it, right? And I go in there and I just think, why are we doing this? This is crazy, and so I'm watching this whole play out. And I'll end with this on this little rant here, but 3 months later, you know what will happen? 3 months later, he's paying somebody. He's doing all the time and the labor. Think about, they got us so conditioned that to do this on this, somebody's capitalizing on this. Hey, I'm going to get this guy to do all this. Pays the person to take it away, recycle, and then 3 months later, go to the same box store and buy what he turned in, but buys it as mulch and then spends $300 in mulch. You just had that. That material that you just turned in was turned into mulch. And am I crazy? Am I crazy for thinking this?
No, you've tuned into the fact that we need to leave the leaves. It's part of the cycle. And that's something that, as you use the word, I think we're conditioned to think that we have to do this stuff. We read in the paper, you got to get the brown bags at Kroger or whatever, and just put them in a bags. And refuse people got to pick them up. It's all not necessary.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And everybody's going around yammering always about they want more time and money. And I'm thinking, hey, I can save you time and money right now. So, but don't worry, there's more in store here. So,
oh yeah.
So we're just warming up here. So hang on to your britches. So, but now we got spring coming up and spring ephemerals. I actually didn't prep you for this. I don't know if I told you. So we're doing this on the fly. Are you familiar with any spring ephemerals? The Jacob's ladder, May apples,
yes,
Virginia bluebells.
I can't wait for them.
Yeah, we're talking a parade of colors, pastels out there like you've never seen. I started diving into this, like I said, recently, and it is amazing. There's actually some soccer fields over here where the whole forest is just May apples. So there is a lot of cool stuff that goes on here. And these spring ephemerals, let me explain here for you, those not familiar. They're going to come out maybe late February, early March. We're talking about just in the Ohio region, probably about 200 some species, maybe throughout the Midwest Great Lakes. You're going to be 300-400 different types of species, these spring ephemerals that come out. And what happens is if they have found a little niche over millions of years to do this, where the forest in November will lose their leaves, what we're just talking about, and it doesn't have any leaves, they're just branches and sticks out there, right? So they start to bloom and they'll come up right now and they'll flower for just about a month or so. And then come late April, early May, they go dormant and they go to sleep the rest of the year. Not that they could do anything else, even if they wanted to, because you got the tree canopy. But that's what they found out. They found that, I can right now, when the weather starts to warm up just enough, before that tree canopy goes out, I'm going to put out my flower. And just like every living being, it needs to reproduce via seed, and that's when it's going to flower. The flower turns to seed, and it does that over this little 1 to 2 month span. It is fascinating. I highly, highly recommend to go check that out. It gives you hope, and that's what we're all about here. RLF is hope. Hope springs eternal. And, if you're out there, battling, I got something for you. We're all in this together, okay? So this right here is one of the most fascinating, beautiful things. I actually went down to Red River Gorge in Kentucky last year to notice some of these items and walking on the trail path and being real careful and seeing this. And there was a gentleman, he knew exactly what I was going after there. So there are over, in our specific, a couple hundred species. So we don't have time to go over every single one. I mean, we could do 30 hours of podcasts to go over all these. But Mayapple, Virginia bluebells, you touched on that. Virginia bluebell is one of the most famous. Breathtaking. It looks like a carpet out there. It's just blue. just a bunch of blue little flowers out there. I heard there's actually some of these nicknames for flowers, by the way, are silly. Do you know another nickname? Have you ever heard of another nickname for Virginia bluebells?
No.
Cowslip.
Oh, I've heard the term.
Yeah. Cowslip.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I guess the cattle used to be on the hillside, and there were so many of these Virginia bluebells, and the cattle would fall and slip down into the creek. Maybe they're going down to the creek to get a drink, and then So if you ever hear cowslip, I just read that. And I'll tell you, the more I read, the more I realize I don't know. So there's a lot out there as well. So one thing I would want to talk about too is these relationships. If you're already picking up on it, there's symbiotic relationships here. So this symbiosis is important, and we're going to get to how this is going to relate to every single person listening. So just a Jacob's ladder and this Polemonian reptans. There is a bee species in the Adrena genus that can only get the pollen, the nectar, from the Jacob's ladder. So much so that this Adrena genus bee is now called Adrena Polemonian, because it only goes to the Polemonian reptans. And I mean, that is the relationship there. And this takes place over thousands of years, millions of years. And if you're at home thinking, well, why doesn't it just pick a different flower? Well, it's not that easy. There's all these chemical defenses, and certain plants won't even want to be pollinated by here. And the same with the caterpillars. Not every plant wants to be eaten. We don't want to be eaten. There's a whole second, and then you start diving into that, and that leads you down a different road as well. But the relationship there, these specialized bees, which are extremely important, more so than our honeybees. You know where honeybees happen to actually be from? I think this is mind-blowing, probably a lot of people. We're about to...
Where?
They're not from here. They're from Europe. The honeybees, they are actually not native. Now, there's so many debates about, are they good, are they bad, are they doing more damage? And I'm telling you, this is one of the things that is so cool. There are so many high-level, controversial, I guess I'll call it, this is... In our world, this isn't like a mainstream controversy, but on a higher level, this is one of them is, honeybees are not native, but you'll see the reason for the need for these native plants and the protecting these ecosystems, because that Jacob's ladder has to depend on that specific bee, and that bee has to depend on that Jacob's ladder to reproduce. And without them, they're done. And it's the same way you could go through the moths and the butterflies, which are both part of the Lepidoptera genus. So they all have what they call their host plants, and without those host plants, they cease to exist. So these relationships, these symbiotic relationships, are ones that we are protecting over, through our ecosystem. And we got skin in the game, folks. I'll tell you right now. So, I mean, it has been proven if all insects were to go away, all ecosystems collapse within 30 days. So pack your bags. If, the insects go away, then, we're donezo too. We got to support the food chain, right? So,
and the bees are critical in that particular way. So much of the plant crops are pollinated by bees.
Yep.
And so and beekeeping, maybe you're probably going to talk about that, but that's another way to get reconnected with what's going on in the food system. The ecology of the backyard can be done.
Absolutely. But 3/4 of our crops are pollinated by pollinators. So, which means if they're not doing the job, I can tell you right now, you better be getting out there with a Q-tip. And I've done that for some zucchinis and cucumbers, but who's going to do that for the whole world? You talked about, it's funny, you talked about the beekeeping. I do have something on that note. We're going to take a little twist here. This was the word I wasn't going to tell you pre-show, but myrmecochory. Have you ever heard of myrmecochory?
No.
I you know what? And there's people, and don't feel ashamed about this, and this is why I tell people, don't feel intimidated. There's so much out there not to know. I have read about this and then listened to some people who know more, or have forgotten more than I'll ever know, I should say, that have just became familiar with this. So what myrmecochory is, it has to do with ant seed dispersal and ant pollination. Ants. Wow. Not even. So it's funny that he had said that. Was a great segue there. Thanks for setting me up like that. Ants. We're talking ants here. There's 130 species of ants in our region. The little things that maybe when you're a kid you had a magnifying glass on, they're at the pool and you saw there on the blacktop and you're smashed. Hey, you know what? They're actually helping seed dispersal, especially the springiformes. In fact, there's over 3,000 plant species in the United States that have a special relationship with ants to disperse their seed, to reproduce that. And that's Myrmecochory. So how do they do that? Well, here's what's interesting about this. I find this fascinating. And it's almost kind of works like our joint services here. We have the Marines that might call on, LZ, landing zone. We have air cover, suppressing fire. We got to coordinate these attacks, right? Everybody wants to know what's in it for them. Hey, you're going to help me out? And it doesn't have to be that extreme. It could be, hey, can this Black Hawk take this, young Navy sailor to SEAL, or this Marine back to a MASH? He needs some, assistance. So we would do that all the time. But in this, so the plants aren't that much different than us. So what they do is they have this thing called an eliosome. All right. So, and I'm not going to spell the eliosome for you. We're going to make a producer, Ethan, put that up on the website there. And then we're going to test him up by putting the word eliosome up on there. So just kidding, Ethan. But so these eliosomes, these springiformals, put this vegetative like tissue, we'll call it. And it's tough to describe this, but it's full of lipids, which are fats, and protein. And they'll put this eliosome with the seed. So the ants go, I want that eliosome, right? So they grab this eliosome and then they take it back, to their home, and they share it and they have a feast. And they just eat all this. It's full of lipids and proteins, and they're just getting all sorts of full on this thing. Then they're left with this seed. Well, here's what's interesting. These ants, pretty smart guys, they got compost little, piles. They got trash piles, which are full of humus and rich soil. And so they take the seed and they go put it over here in the trash bin, in their version of a trash bin, which is essentially a compost pile for ants. So the seed then gets dispersed over here. Guess what happens a few months later to that seed? It turns into that plant. And so the plant gets reproduced and moves because the ant is dispersing its seed.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is this stuff, right? I mean, this is amazing. I mean, I think about how the relationship there, how specific that is to have that connection. I don't know. I can't be the only one, right? This is fascinating stuff.
It's not only fascinating, it's these spring plants are beautiful. I know in Ohio, and there's a group called the Highlands Nature Sanctuary, and they've been buying and working with nature preserves to basically host people visiting from all over. Right at that time, you're mentioning this little time when they were just coming up to flower, and so it's beautiful and attracts people, and you'll find that the beauty of it is an integral part of the appreciation, not just the fact that it's amazing that it happens in these little ecological niches.
Absolutely. Yeah, is that Appalachia? Is that
yes, same people.
Yeah, I mean, there's just great stuff going on down there. And so I just drive this home to everybody, whether, veteran or not. There's so many opportunities to engage in this stuff, and there's so much to learn. And my mind's always blown. I was reading about all this stuff. So, Myrmecochory, and if you do want to research at home, I'm going to do this on the fly here. So that is Mike, Yankee, Romeo, Mike, Echo, Charlie, Oscar, Charlie, Hotel, Oscar, Romeo, Yankee. So there we go right there. And if that's actually, most people don't know this, that's actually why you go through all that training. I was platoon radio man during field medical service school. So thank you, Staff Sergeant Clark. So I think that's the real reason he puts me through all that training. You go through boot camp and all that. Is so one day you can be going over native plants and agrotherapy with your fellow veterans. I think that's the real reason. That's my story. That's what I'm gonna stick to on that. But there's another cool thing that's really about all this is buzz pollination. I don't know if it's called sonification is the fancy word. So if you want to look really cool, on the street, somebody want to sit at a bar and talk to somebody and they'll have them buy you a beer because you know about sonification. But really, sonification, honestly, this stuff is fascinating too. So we have bees. We talked about special relationships. Everybody knows about bumblebees. Our mason bees can do this too. But a lot of these plants have evolved that they can be pollinated, and a lot of times only pollinated by bumblebee or this buzz pollination, the sonification. So what happens is these bumblebees will fly in, and they'll kind of decouple their wings in the back, and then they'll get in there and they'll literally just shake like this, whatever it is that Charles said, the jitterbug, they're doing it, and they'll just shake and they're just buzz pollinating the sonification. And what happened? The anthers, which holds all the pollen on the plant, on these plants here, the anthers release all the pollen, and only if though they get that buzz pollination. They don't get that buzz pollination. There's no pollen from the anthers. So they have set this up that they only can be pollinated that way, and they make sure that they don't give you the pollen unless you know how to do the dance. Well, I mean that to me is just mind blowing, right? I mean, this is the stuff that you get into and you can see, and I encourage veterans just dive right in. I planted about 7 to 9 Jacob's ladders on my property just to see, what happens. Maybe I have some of these special bees out there. I have to see. So I have volunteered my property for some of the local extension services because I'm kind of eager to find out on some of these items. But I think all this stuff, with May apples too, you have a little apple up at the top there where box turtles will come and they'll disperse that seed as well. So, yeah.
You mentioned the Extension Service, which is a resource that's pretty much every state. Yeah. If you have questions about any aspect of getting into gardening and learning about plants and learning about all the kinds of things Matt's talking about, they're a resource to help you answer questions and give you resources online or in person. So.
Absolutely. And we're going to hopefully do more pods here, and we're going to be pushing this because we really want to carry the momentum and help veterans to get into these fields. There's a lot of opportunities, and we don't have the time right now to go over everyone. But even outside the GI Bill, I have looked at universities where some of them will sponsor beekeeper programs for veterans. Some of them will sponsor educational programs outside of the GI Bill. And so there's different programs for different states, so there's a lot of variables there. But I would encourage you to look at that. This is a field that is growing. We need you. I need you. And but we will go over that more. And we're going to have some future pods where we dive into that a little bit more to help veterans. So, yeah, I quickly wanted to go over, some ideas as we get here into springtime before we wrap up today's show about, things you can do. And this is another item that we could spend, probably a half hour on each topic, but kind of like a quick 8 to-dos, maybe not to-dos on this. And they come from Dr. Doug Ptolemy, who I met before. I was like meeting a rock star, I thought, So
True.
Had him sign my books here. I think he had him sign every one of my books. I realized there was one book he didn't sign, so I went and bought that. And then I went up there and he recognized me because he already signed 5 of my books already. And he's going, who the heck is this guy? And he said, what do you want me to say? And I just stood there kind of frozen. I don't know, So anyway, one of them is shrink your lawn. I'm going to be honest. I mean, the lawns, this monoculture mess that we're in, this is another thing that we're conditioned in. Chances are you probably don't utilize every square inch of your lawn. And I'm not saying to get rid of it. I'm not saying it doesn't, serve a purpose, but, lawns aren't meant to be full bore carpet. They're most made to be the shades, the window dressing of it all. It's not meant to be the full scale carpet there. All right. That's kind of a rough analogy of how I would describe it, paths and a place to rest your eyes and an area, maybe for your kids or with a dog take out, but, you're probably not utilizing the entire area. So I would say shrink your lawn. And in fact, they say roughly for every 1% of lawn that you reduce it by, you'll get a 1% increase in terms of wildlife, insects, whatever you get. So you reduce 10%, expect 10% more birds, expect 10% more butterflies if you're replacing it with that. And I think that's pretty cool, and that puts it into perspective. So
yes,
if you're able to flip over half, and that's where you really start to see the changes. So and I can vouch for that. It was probably about, once I got past the 1/3 ratio, it just flipped. And then now that I'm approaching the half, 50% of shrinking that lawn and putting in native plants, it's extrapolated over that. So, any thoughts on the mess that we're in with the lawn business here?
Yeah, we actually spread more pesticides on our lawns than we do on these giant monoculture farms.
Yeah.
So that's Roundup is got some negatives to it, and I think people are catching on the fact that we don't need to poison our food, and we can grow food organically, locally, right in our backyards. So yeah, it's a major trend, and that's why, as Matt says, there's many opportunities here for employment and for there's just a need to expand on this, because you're going to talk about Doug Tallamy, and he's broached this concept of a national park from our backyards and our alleys that are ignored, that we could make such a dramatic change over scale that you don't perceive. And by the way, I'll just add that Doug Tallamy, if you're not, Matt's read all these books, he's also a great communicator. And if you just go onto YouTube and type in Doug Tallamy, you're going to hear some great lectures that he's just really good at communicating these ideas.
Yeah.
And you'll hear more from Matt on this, but just saying, you can hear from the stores.
Yeah, he's smarter than I am. I aspired to be like him. No, you nailed it. Thank you. He's, I read, so over 1/3, 35% of our residential use of water. That's a lot. We're getting near half, okay? Isn't on showers, on baths, drinking. It's on lawns. 35% of the water that we're using in neighborhoods is on lawns. I mean, this is nuts. And it's going to sound like I'm harping on this, but I keep going back to it. It's because, so grasses, actually, lawns aren't native. So you're thinking, all right, Matt, well, what the heck is your deal with here? Well, I can tell you. So the root system, and I wish we have a picture up here. We're going to get a picture on our next pod up here. We're going to show you the root system with the grass between, let's say it's a Joe Pye, and the root system's 10 times longer. It will go down 2, 3, 4, 5 feet into the ground, soaking up all that water. Well, the grass doesn't have that long of a root, so it needs constantly watered. So if you water it and it goes 3-4 days, well, it can't store that. And it can't store that water because it wasn't made here. It was not used to our climate. That's why it's so important. As we talked about earlier, you can see in those other relationships where they get used to, okay, this is how much water I get. This is the climate I live in. I live, whether it's California or Colorado or Ohio, this is how much I get. They're not used to it. This is I'm just going to come out and say it, so this is controversial or not, but it's a status symbol, which is call it what it is. It's a status symbol. It's look at my lawn, look at what I do. And it's an ancient relic of, some Victorian, European, ancient way of living, and it doesn't provide any benefit. So, and that's another thing. I tell you what, shrink your lawn. You don't have to go out there mowing. It's just, what is so mundane, going up and down. You're just, they're just the mindless activity of just going up and down in rows. I mean, my Lord, I'm telling you, there's some other exciting stuff you can be doing, like the Milwaukee method, and these plants that you go out there and you can see, wow, I got this little skipper moth that is hopping over, and you can see bluebird dive down. I know a Cooper's hawk flying, swoop in, pick up a rabbit. I had that happen. Put it on the back deck as like a source of pride. Look at what I caught. I mean, just some cool stuff, interaction that you can see going all around, So anyway, we got eagles returning to the area too. I mean, this is bald eagles. There's nothing more patriotic than that. And I'm telling you, if you build it, they will come, to use an old line. I'm telling you, if you build it, they will come. I promise you that. The other thing, the second one is remove invasive plants. These are non-native invasive plants. We're talking the Japanese honeysuckle, the autumn olive, the Bradford pear, those items, to get rid of those. Because they don't support the wildlife and the nature and the ecosystems that the native plants do, right? So we've already seen how this works. So just to take a step back, because I told you this is going to come full circle, the honeybees that we talked about, when we talked about the buzz pollination sonification, honeybees can't do that. They literally cannot do that. So, and that's not to say they don't serve a purpose. I mean, they do. At this point, we're desperate for pollinators, okay? And this is why that's a whole other rabbit hole to go into. But the invasive plants, we got to get rid of them. There's plenty on there. I guarantee your extension, your state, no matter what state you live in, will have a list of them. You're free to remove them, and you're probably even free to remove them from public areas too as well. Just make sure you know what you're getting into. There's a lot of plant identification apps. Use something to make sure that you're actually removing the bad guy, right? So this is where the veterans come in. We come in to remove bad guy. We need you to support that and to get in there and remove that, because they don't share that symbiotic relationship that the native plants do. So,
and like honeysuckle, which is one of the worst, is it will take over and make it impossible, less likely that native plants can survive. That's why there's really a movement for most city governments, county governments. They're working on dealing with the honeysuckle.
Yep. Totally agree. Yeah, and the prickly pear or the Bradford pear, it's got a million different names, but that's the little white.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, and they smell kind of funky too. But anyway, so that I would say remove non-native invasive plants. That would be one. All right, so we're gonna speed this up a little bit here. We're gonna also talk about create no-mow zones. You can create a little pocket prairie. That's a name for it. No-mow zones. I'm gonna let this go here. Talking about getting the seed mowing down really low. There's ways that you can also shrink your lawn and create those no-mow zones. I find for me one of the easiest things is calling it lasagna layer. There's a way to do it. For me, it took me a while to find what my little niche, but I kind of put cardboard down, brown cardboard, and then you put some straw down, and then you could put manure and then compost, and then repeat it again, straw, and then maybe put in some mushroom compost, leaf compost, and then I'll put in straw again, and then maybe some soil and topsoil, and then you go from there. And that will eventually go down and create the soil that you need in the soil structure. So light pollution, equip outside lights with motion sensors, yellow lights, will less distracting to insects. You'll see these moths. It's the old moth. Fascinated with the light. It's because they're used to having a flight pattern using stars. I mean, all these lights came in out of nowhere, and it's just it. I don't even have a strong enough analogy to describe it, but they see that and they just get attracted to it. And what happens is they get worn out, they get tired, they can't fly on, they can't reproduce, and they become easy prey. But it's really devastating the effects there, and that's also affecting our birds too. And speaking of which, by the way, I did have one thing. What bird is the first sign of spring? Do you know?
Robin?
Oh, close. It's orange and black, red-winged blackbird. So if you see the red-winged blackbird, spring's around the corner. All right, keystone species. Dr. Chris Sand wanted me to talk about what the plant. Well, it's going to be a little different to where you're at, whether you're west of Mississippi, east of Mississippi. But in general, oaks. Oaks are a keystone species. Plant as many oaks as you can. Cherry, that's in the Prunus genus. Willows, if you're around some water. Birches. And then we have some pollinators as well. And if these are local to your area, do it. Like I said, you have an extension. There's many resources. I have a book here called The Living Landscape. It is wonderful. And I know people can find stuff online. This hard copy, I would put this better than anything I can find online, or you can print out, or every single area of the nation, shrub, tree, native perennial, and it breaks it down, benefits, and it does it for each section of America. Highly recommend that. But solidagos, those are your goldenrods, right? So black-eyed Susan, which is Rudbeckia. You don't have to memorize the scientific names, but if you get in a situation, sometimes people share names, and there is some. The American boxwood isn't actually American. They just call it that. It's the meatball bushes that everybody has. That's what I call them, the meatball bushes that everybody has in their front yard, and they got to get out there and trim those meatball bushes. Right. So anyway, wild bergamot, bee balm, Joe Pye, milkweed, which is Asclepias, coneflower is Echinacea, and then switchgrass, a little blue stem. Those are some other good ones, but really your asters are powerhouse. Solidagos, service berries are actually native, I think, throughout the country, and then penstemon. And just to show you how silly, some of the common names, I guess, would be, and not the scientific. Penstemon, you might hear foxglove beard tongue. You ever heard that one? Foxglove beard tongue, yeah. It's actually one of my favorite plants now, but there's a lady who has some of this. I thought, what the heck are you trying to foxglove beard tongue? But now I love it. And so I had a hummingbird moth on it. It's phenomenal. So welcome the pollinators. The last couple of things got is mosquitoes, don't spray. And these are both the kind of 7 and 8 is really, using mosquito dunks instead of spraying and avoiding chemicals. These chemicals don't just go, oh, well, that's a good one. That's a bad one. I'm going to hit this. This is native. That's not native. They don't know, right? So if you want to get rid of mosquitoes, I would say mosquito dunks, not spray. It's cheaper. I told you I was going to save you money. We're talking $1.99 mosquito dunks. And then chemicals. There's no reason just to go and just spray. And I see people doing this. I see people with pets, even kids, and they're just going up and they're spraying chemicals everywhere. And I just think, oh my goodness, you're going to have like an 8-year-old girl walk on this later, and it just breaks my heart. And it's not fair to her that, father's out there spraying it. And it's just, they don't need it, and it's going to hurt. If you want to get rid of whatever it is you're trying to get rid of, some fly, it's also going to get rid of the caterpillar and the bluebird and the moth, and it's going to get rid of everything else that you want to keep. So they don't differentiate. They can't tell the difference. So those are quick, down and dirty. Anything else you want to to do or not to do? Anything that I covered it all there? Or
Well, the incidence of cancer. I have a wife who died of cancer, breast cancer. She was in her 50s. That alone is enough reason for me personally to deal with not spraying.
yeah,
Because that poison gets in the environment, it gets in our food system, and it's not good.
yeah. No, I totally agree, and I can completely empathize. I'm sorry to hear that, Chuck. And I lost my mother, and she didn't drink, didn't smoke, Pilates 3 times a week, 50 years old. You tell me, nurse, and on the heels of my second tour in Iraq, and I felt like it was taken away. It was something stolen from me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there is still this day we have no reason for what happened to happen, and you're seeing this more and more. You're seeing more cancer places going. Pediatric cancer has quadrupled, at least, if not more. These kids, they're not doing anything right. They're just born into this, and automatically there's a reason why this is going up, and there's a way to get around this. I think veterans, we can lead the charge on this. I think we can really, cure ourselves, help ourselves, and help the local ecosystem. So I hope you find all that beneficial. I told you we're going to save you time and money. I gave you all the way, the tools there. There's a lot more to cover here too as well. Listen, my final plea, I guess, today as we wrap up is I need you. We need you. And maybe you're in a struggle right now where this could benefit you. Maybe you know somebody else that is struggling that they could, really benefit by this. And even if those don't apply, I guarantee you helping a local ecosystem, helping, fresh water, fresh air. And even if those still don't apply, like we already joked about, but seriously too, is, you can save time and money by doing these items. It's really beneficial. It's a win-win. There's no reason to continue down the path that there's a lot more sustainable ways we can be doing this and helping each other. But my plea to you is take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Get out there, stick outside, stay a while, plant as if your life depended on it, because it does. And there's a million ways to get in here. And I will tell you, just going to touch on quickly on these subjects. Meant to do this earlier, but if you don't think there's a lot to get into here, it's fascinating. We talked about sonification, vermiculture, ant pollination. There's a whole conversation about deer overpopulation, the devastating effects that deer are having. We'll get into that one day. The cats, what do we do about, there's 400 million cats in free roaming. There's a million things. The honeybees. What about the pollinators are going down? We've lost 60 million birds. How do we say? And then there's even controversies within the, people that are on the same team, I guess you would call it. They're trying to figure out why I think we should do it this way. There's a million ways to get involved, and there's also a million things to get into. There's so much out there. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating world. But like I will go back to, I need you. We need you. We're all in this together. And the veteran suicide rate numbers are higher than any other demographic. We got to find a way to combat this. I think this is a great way. Get our hands in the soil. It doesn't cost anything, or a little bit at most. Just get out there. And next time, I promise you, we'll get more into the Miyawaki method, which is a reforesting method too as well. So I know we're wrapping up, so now is not the time to do that, but it's a great way to do that. And I guess I'll end on a lighter note too, is it's a reforesting method to do. And this is also, I'm going to preview to you guys one more time, boot camp and training is all about actually native plants. So I'm out there this past November. I planted 30 plants in a 10 by 10 area for reforesting. Thank you to Meyer Grocery and the RLF board for that. We use that as a training tool. And it's 1 a.m. in the morning. It's dark. It's cold. And I realized the 6-foot fence that I put up, I fenced myself in, and I got chicken wire on the bottom, and I got no way out. And I can't just dive underneath because I just put 30 plants in the ground. So I low crawled out. So if you're thinking back to boot camp and you're low crawling under Constantinov wire or Hell Week, that's why. Well, your drill instructors were thinking one day this guy's going to do a Miyawaki method. I'm just kidding. But anyway, listen, we need you. We're going to get into some of these methods later on. And I urge everybody to get out there, learn as much as you can, and then just start figuring it out. It's trial and error, and I'm always available. I'm always available to help veterans, and I think we can do this.
I'll just reinforce what Matt says, get out there. we're conditioned to think we're separate from the living landscape. Once you get out there, then you recognize and really connect with what's out there, and that's what will keep you inspired to keep learning and keep following Matt's ideas and inspiration.
Yep, that's well, thank you. That you said it. We're not too separate, and we're very, very similar. I think we saw that right here. The way that all these things kind of reproduce and they interact, they have all these specialized relationships. So do we. So until next time, I would say garden as if your life depends on it, and take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Thank you.
If you are thinking about harming yourself or attempting suicide, tell someone who can help right away. Call 911 for emergency services. Go to the nearest hospital emergency room. Call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. This podcast is made possible thanks to a grant from the Fred and June McMurray Foundation, and it's produced by the Resurrecting Lives Foundation at the Sycamore Studio. Music is written, performed, and graciously provided by Tim Beckley. Remember, when you work toward brain injury recovery, it is best to journey with a friend and keep your gait steady and your spirit strong. Finally, always seek shelter from your storm.
Baghdad, the Basra, the Boston, the Bakersfield, the hottest battle I ever fought is raging inside of me. My brain has been battered, scrambled and rattled, and no one knows what's going on with me.